This quarantine, it's been making people go crazy around here. Lately, there's been a spike in crime. Mailbox thieves, vandals, an attempted kidnapping at Walgreens just 3 minutes away, and another one at a grocery store just 5 minutes away. At least one car looter has been making the rounds, and my neighbor's security camera captured footage of a strange hooded man wandering the neighborhood on multiple occasions around 2 a.m. Even my own car was looted once, right in my own driveway too. I've lived in this sleepy little town for well over 20 years, and I have never seen anything like this. I cleaned up my uncle's old 12-gauge Mossberg and tried to buy some extra shells for it, but all the gun shops were either swamped, depleted, or just no longer selling anything. My luck. I had one shell left, and that was it. So I kept it in the shotgun, loaded upstairs in a supply cabinet in the hallway. I slept with a machete on my nightstand. The quarantine had an effect on my family too. My uncle and aunt got into a huge fight, and they wanted to separate. He took a bunch of his things, said they're getting divorced, and I haven't seen him since. My aunt went over to her vacant property about half an hour away in a safer part of town to make sure there weren't any squatters and to make it look occupied to deter burglars. So at this time I was home by myself. It was about midnight on the third week of the quarantine, and I just couldn't sleep. I went to the study room upstairs to watch TV, and I flicked through the channels, not really looking for anything in particular. Behind me were windows that allowed me to see into the front yard and driveway. I noticed a light flicked on down the street. It was one of those motion sensor types. About half a minute later, another one came on. This time it was from my neighbor's driveway, right across the street. So I turned off the TV and I peered out the partially closed blinds. Since I hadn't bothered to turn on the lights in the study when I came in to watch TV, it was dark. So whoever was out there probably wouldn't be able to see me. At the very edge of the light, I saw something moving out of it. I partially attributed this to the dirty window, my restlessness, and my overall apprehensiveness with regards to the current spike in crime. But those were motion sensor lights, right? So something had to be moving. There was definitely someone out there. No sooner had I finished this thought, the motion sensor light in our own driveway flicked on. I tried to see who was down there, but my vision was obscured by our two cars, the ledge right outside the window, and the dirty windows themselves. I heard a slight scuffing noise coming from below, sort of like fabric on fabric, you know, the kind that's waterproof and resists wind that people use in those windbreaker coats. So now I was really sure someone was there, intentionally staying out of sight by staying close to the house, under the ledge where I couldn't see them. I felt goosebumps on my skin and went to the storage cupboard to fetch the shotgun, but it was gone. I put two and two together and concluded my uncle must have taken the gun with him when he moved out of the house, and I cursed myself for not noticing earlier. So with nothing else left to grab, I took the machete from my room and stood at the foot of the stairs on the first floor, half expecting it to spring open. There was a low gate we installed around the front yard to keep our dogs in, back when we still had dogs. I heard that gate rattling and then opening. Footsteps approached the front door, heavy steps, like something a large man in boots would make. The doorknob on the front door began to click and move. Whoever was outside was trying to open it, and thank God it was locked. Being home alone with nothing but a gardening tool to defend myself really started to sink in at that moment. What if this guy had a gun? I dialed 911 and started to whisper into the phone, not wanting the person outside to hear that I was only calling just now. The operator told me to stay on the line and assured me police were on the way. I yelled as loudly as I could to the intruder, "Police are on the way and I'm armed. Get away from my house." The rattling stopped. However, a dark shape appeared in front of the window about 7 feet to the right of the front door. He was a black man, clearly over 6 feet tall, with a much heavier build than me. He looked straight at me, and I thought I saw him smile as he started fiddling with the window, which was also locked. I looked at him more intently, and I saw that he was smiling, but the way he was smiling was incredibly unnerving. He had these big bulging eyes, and he didn't have that happy sort of smile. It was like a predator kind of smile. He probably saw I didn't have a gun at that point, so he was going about it without a seeming care in the world. His movements were calm and calculated and methodical. He didn't look the least bit worried. Then I found out why. I heard the sound of the door in the backyard also rattling. I spun around and saw the shadows of 2 more men out there trying to open the door leading from our house to the backyard. It wasn't just one guy, it was 3. I yelled into my phone at the 911 operator at this point, not even caring anymore that the men could hear me. She told me again the police were almost there. My mind was numb with fear and I was trembling from the adrenaline rush, but I managed to quickly figure out that I would get surrounded if any of those guys broke in. I needed to get to a more defensible area, so I ran upstairs and back into the study room. I pushed several chairs against the door and even shoved one under the doorknob to keep the door closed from the inside. Even with that door closed, I heard a loud slamming noise coming from downstairs, probably the back door, followed by footsteps. Then the front door opening and the sound of men speaking. I was guessing all of them were in the house. Heavy footsteps, and even some laughing, wafted up from downstairs, as well as the noise of some objects being moved, like furniture. Then footsteps came up the stairs, slowly, and then started coming down the hall. The men must have gone to different rooms to check, because I could hear the sounds of drawers and other containers being opened, and objects being thrown on the ground. Then the footsteps converged and came the rest of the way down the hall. The men started pounding on the study door, trying to open it. All I could do was grip my machete until my knuckles were white, and I pushed with all my might against the barricade, holding the door closed. Then, like a light from heaven, I saw red and blue lights of cop cars coming from outside. The pounding on the door ceased, and I heard men scrambling back downstairs. It had taken the police only a little over 3 or 4 minutes to respond to my call, which was really fast, but every single second had felt like an hour. Those men had escaped through the backyard when the police came in, but the cops managed to apprehend one suspect who was in a car outside my house, and they told me he was likely the getaway driver. Several days later, I was informed of 4 men in total who'd been apprehended by police. Among them were the same men that came to my house. At least I could recognize the man with the large frame and the bulging eyes. Together, apparently, they'd been the ones jointly responsible for a string of recent home invasions in my area. They even tied up and nearly killed an elderly couple in one of the homes that they ransacked. So the moral of the lesson is, well, to me at least, there's no replacement for a gun in a home defense situation like this. When trouble comes knocking and time is of the essence, you probably have nobody to rely on but yourself. That's why the first thing I'm gonna do when the businesses are back up is buy another shotgun. Hey friends, what do you think about this quarantine story? Has anything strange or scary been happening in quarantine in your area? Leave a comment below, and remember to like my video and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to stay on top of my content, be sure to ring that bell icon. And until next time, Darke and Dreadly out.